Hi, Karen. Welcome. It's very nice to meet you, and thank you very much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Karen, thanks again for being here. Before we dive in, can you tell me a bit about yourself, how you found carnivore, how did it all start for you?
Well, I've always been a kid that struggled with weight. I've tried every lose weight method out there from sensible to crazy. Um, Nothing seemed to work. Every time I did lose, it was because I did something drastic. And as soon as I stopped doing that thing, the weight came back and brought 20 of its friends with it. So 20 pounds, usually every time. So it was right at the end of the pandemic, and I was uncomfortable. I was over 300 pounds, and I something needed to change, or I was gonna die early. My daughter had been killed in a car accident, and I had three grandkids that didn't have a mom, so I felt like I needed to do something to stick around for them longer, if nothing else. And so my sister had had some success with keto. So I had been on YouTube looking for keto advice, and I saw a YouTube video that was put there by Kerry Mann from Homestead How. Do you know him? Do you know who he is? With the Healing Humanity movie. Um, I saw a video, came on my feed, and it said, I lost a weight just by eating meat. And my light bulb went on because I do not like vegetables. I never have. I always wanted to eat meat. My one downfall is potatoes. It's like crack for me. And that's where I struggle is with potatoes. But everything else, sugar, I don't care about that. I can leave it alone. But I saw Carrie's video, and so I watched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can lose weight just by eating meat and not have to count anything. Just don't eat carbs. That sounds easy. So I started doing it, and the weight kind of just fell off at the beginning. It leveled out after I lost quite a bit. I ended up probably losing about 130 pounds. Um, but then things changed. Then I moved in with kids and grandkids in June, well, 2 years ago now. And when I've lost control of the food, I backslid some, but not, I still have kept most of it off. So, yeah, I feel like if I could have been eating meat all my life and had known what I know now after studying carnivore and what food really is about, I could have been thin a lot sooner, or at least not so fat.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment, and I'm sorry to hear about your daughter. Karen, so how long did you do your research for before jumping into carnivore? You mentioned about Kerry Mann, watching his video. Did it pretty much like just watching one of his video like took you pretty much to make the decision to
Yeah,
jump into carnivore
it
right
was like
away, or
flipping a switch.
it took you like days or weeks or anything like that?
No, immediate. It was like flipping a switch.
Oh wow,
And
yeah.
I started watching more, and then he was introducing a lot of the doctors, Dr. Barry and Dr. Chaffee and Dr. Ovadia and Dr. Kills and Dr. Ease and all of the carnivore doctors that we know now. And so I started watching a lot of their videos, mostly Dr. Barry, and I love Dr. Chaffee because he constantly is saying, plants are trying to kill you. Do not eat plants, eat meat.
Yeah, Karen, I think the same for me. Those doctors you mentioned, especially Dr. Chapey, I think are the people, the first
Hmm.
few medical experts that I also listened to. What were the things that you felt different, like after jumping in carnivore? Did it felt like the difference also, was it something gradual? Was it like the brain fog going away? You have more energy? Were those like something gradual that you experienced?
I felt several changes very quickly. The brain fog went away. I have arthritis. I have a really bad knee, and I noticed the inflammation went away very quickly. A lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it, to where I felt significantly better and more comfortable. Um, I had more energy. I wasn't starving. That's the main thing for me, and that's what people don't understand about dieting is when you deprive yourself, eventually that breaks and then you binge and then you're right back where you were when you started. You can't you can't do that because it doesn't work. It just doesn't. Because then
Yeah, I completely agree.
your mind comes into play also because it's not fair. I had relatives that could eat 24/7 and they were this big around always. And I just look at food, which I understand now because Dr. Barry says that is true. If you walk by a bakery and you smell that food coming from the bakery, you don't even have to eat it because that smell starts an insulin response in your body because it thinks you're going to eat. So it gets ready for the food. So that old saying about, oh, all I have to do is look at it and I gain 5 pounds, there is some truth to that. So you have to just learn how to manage things. But when you're not constantly starving like all the other weight loss programs, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Karen, so I think many carnivores like pretty much took some time to do their research, and I think some, like in your case, also jumped in pretty quickly. Were you ever skeptical of carnivore at first? I know you mentioned that you already didn't like vegetables, and you wish that you have found carnivore right away. But were you ever skeptical of it, like in the
No,
beginning?
never. I had tried every other crazy thing on earth, so just eating meat didn't sound so crazy to me because I've done weirder stuff trying to lose weight, including back in the 70s, taking really potent amphetamines, which they don't even prescribe anymore because they were so strong. But they worked. They worked because you're not hungry, and so you just don't eat. Well, you can't sustain that for very long. And as soon as you start eating, it just comes right back because you're eating the wrong things. And that's the whole point of it. You eat the wrong things. And the rules of carnivore are pretty simple. You don't have to be meat only. I know a lot of the people like Dr. Barry. Dr. Barry gives his children fruit. And some fruits are lower in hypoglycemic value and sugar, blueberries, grapes. They're not so bad. So to give kids a little bit of fruit, I don't see any harm in that. As long as you're trying to eat food that is as close to its original state. That's the important part, to take the processing out of it.
Yeah, you just mentioned here, like, it is really simple. It's just that eating the wrong thing is, basically the root
Hmm.
cause of this. Um, you know, when I look back to my own health issues, I have so many assumptions, what were causing them, like, skin issues, arthritis. Did you have like many assumptions, maybe like similar to me? What was causing your health issues, your weight gain? Um, could it be stress or a certain food that it triggers, or maybe it's just genetics or anything like
I,
that?
I figured part of it was genetics, and part of it was just being caused by carrying so much weight around. That can't be good. I mean, if you imagine pick up a 50-pound sack of potatoes and carry it around, that's what you're doing when you're overweight. And so if you visualize that, it makes it easier to make better choices with your food. And like I said, I love meat. I hate vegetables. And so when I was found out that I could just eat meat and as much as I wanted till I was full, it was a no-brainer for me. But I grew up in the 60s.
Yeah,
I was born in 1957. And something happened in the 60s that a lot of people aren't aware of, but because things have changed so much now. But in 1966, there was a girl named Twiggy. She was a model, supermodel from England. And she started showing up over here. Well, she was called Twiggy for a reason, because she was this big around. And that made everybody think that if for a woman to be beautiful, you had to look like her. And all of a sudden, all of the curvy women, the old, like Marilyn Monroe and um, Natalie Wood, and your older actresses, we refer to them as the curvy girls, you know, they all of a sudden they were fat when they weren't before Twiggy came, but after she came, society's opinion of weight and body image changed. And so that's what I grew up with. I wanted to go in the military, and I could never lose that last 12 pounds. 12 pounds. It's not like I was huge. It was 12 pounds. You'd think anybody could lose 12 pounds easily, but no, you can't. And especially when you don't know anything about the food that you're eating. It was always restrict, deprive. And when you're using those kind of words about a method that you're trying to use to make yourself better, something is disconnected there, because those words shouldn't be. Deprive and restrict shouldn't be in anything that you're trying to do to improve yourself. I think those are negative words and give you a negative mindset and make you almost defeated before you start.
yeah. Wow. Karen, so what motivates you now? Actually, maybe you can delve a little bit deeper. The difference in motivation, like before finding out carnivore, and your motivation now. Like, is it like to bring awareness to people? To let them know who's maybe looking for uh, maybe to cure their specific disease, or maybe frustration with the current medical guidelines, the nutrition.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
there's that. I don't think too much of the medical community, because I think they're all in cahoots. The big pharma, big med, our former government administrations, not now, because things have changed. Um, Bobby Kennedy has made people start to understand about what they're eating, because he's carnivore, he eats meat and he eats ferments. I hate sauerkraut. I can't do sauerkraut. I can throw a little kimchi in once in a while because the spicy covers up the cabbage taste, but I don't do so good on the ferments. Maybe I'd do better with the weight loss if I could, but you can only do what you can do. I don't want to go back to being miserable when I'm putting food in me that's supposed to be nutrition. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet. I'm trying. I'm trying with kimchi and some aged cheese. Um, Dr. Kills is good about that, um, showing you what some of the alternatives are to like the fermented sauerkraut. So I've been looking into that to see if I can find something fermented that I could stand to eat that isn't awful. But that's kind of a side, as long as I keep doing the mostly meat. But like I said, I have an issue with potatoes. I just can't seem to ever give them up. I call it potato crack. It's like crack. It's like a drug. And
Yeah,
it's
I
hard when
agree
you're
with that.
when you go in the
Potatoes.
kitchen to get dinner and there's a big old pot of mashed potatoes there and you have to leave it and take your meat and go. That's hard. It's very hard. Very difficult.
Yeah. Karen, what was your favorite food before carnivore? So I know you just mentioned like potatoes, like the challenges before before carnivore, and also that you don't like vegetables. You tried sauerkraut and like maybe some fermented food, like maybe kimchi. Uh, it's potatoes, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but my favorite food is steak. It's always been steak. My dad always used to tell a funny story when I was little. Like I said, I grew up in the 60s and things were a lot different then. And back then, Catholics couldn't eat meat on Friday, ever. Now it's just during Lent, that's changed. But in the 60s, Catholics couldn't eat meat on Friday. And my aunt and uncle, my mom's sister and her husband that lived 2 blocks down the street, we always, them and my parents hung out a lot. And so on Friday nights, we'd want to go for fish fry because they were Catholic. They had to eat fish. And every time, I mean, this when I was little, like 3 and 4 years old, and my dad would laugh because I would ask for a steak. Dad, can I have a steak? And he just thought that was the funniest thing. He told that story all the time when I was a little kid. So it's always been steak and meat. And that uncle was a butcher. He had a little market that was mostly meat, and butchering is why people went there. And so we always had access to meat where a lot of other people maybe didn't have so much. I happen to have a meat guy in my family, so I was lucky there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I guess it all makes sense now why you don't like vegetables to begin with, because your
I just never
favorite
did.
food was already meat. So it's just kind of like, yeah, yeah. It's just reconnecting, those childhood memories with the actual food, the right food, that we're supposed to be eating. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
Dr.
Karen,
Chaffee
so
brings up a good point in where he says a baby doesn't have any attitude about food in its brain. It just knows put the food in there and it eats. And when you put vegetables in a baby's mouth, what do? They go and try to spit it out and they tell you how awful it tastes. Well, that should be a signal that we shouldn't be eating that.
yeah, absolutely. Karen, so looking back at your carnivore journey now, were there any mistakes you made, like starting it? What and how did you learn from them?
I wouldn't say mistakes. It was just getting out of the habit of eating those processed foods. And again, like I said, it goes back to potatoes. And I used to eat a lot of potato chips, and I mean a lot. And giving that up was difficult, but at that point I was so tired of being uncomfortable and having these rolls of fat to move around and causing me not to be able to move around and just being uncomfortable and clothes, having to buy new clothes all the time because you just keep getting bigger. And I finally realized one day that I'm going to be like those people on my 600-pound life TV show if I just keep going. So I need to do something. And that's when my sister had good luck with keto. So let me look into that. And I started, and then I found Carrie, and that's where the ball started rolling.
That's awesome, Karen. How long you been carnivore now? How many years?
3. I started June
Three.
28th of 2023.
That's pretty cool. So Karen, what does a typical day or week of eating look like for you now? Do you pretty much keep it consistent, or do you switch things up from time to time? Maybe you can walk me through.
I switch things up sometimes. Eggs and either little sausage links or bacon is a staple for me. Eggs are a natural GLP-1, so I try to eat plenty of eggs. Um, and then when my daughter-in-law makes dinner, I just take whatever meat. We eat a lot of pork loin because we're not rich, so we eat a lot of pork. Beef is so expensive right now. We eat a lot of pork, and I eat a lot of chicken. They don't like chicken so much, but I do. So I'll sometimes buy a big old pack of chicken thighs and stick them in the oven, just season them a little bit and just bake them in the oven, and the skin gets crispy, and there's nothing, it's just chicken with a little seasoning. And then I always have something in the fridge that I can heat up quick. I'm getting lazy in my old age, and I don't want to have to cook something every time I want to eat something. And that's part of the reason why people are eating so badly, is because all those processed foods are very convenient. Pour milk on a bowl of cereal, or shove something in the microwave, or rip open a granola bar that's full of bad stuff. So I don't like having to cook, but if I can just stick something in the microwave, even hot dogs. Dr. Berry is like, you don't have to have ribeye to be carnivore. If all you can afford is bologna and hot dogs, eat the bologna and hot dogs. It may not be the best, but it's still way better than all the processed junk. So that's kind of where I land. So we eat a lot of pork loin. Um, she just pretty much makes normal dinners, and I just take the meat unless I have a really weak moment. And the other night, I was wanting potatoes real bad, and I knew that feeling about if I keep pushing it off, it's going to binge. So I took a spoonful, like that big, of mashed potatoes, which she mashed from potatoes. She peeled them and cooked them and mashed them, so there wasn't any bad stuff in there. We use real butter. I always use real butter. I haven't used margarine for years. Um, so yeah, and I usually eat some kind of leftover meat for breakfast. Um, I keep some hot dogs here that I like. If there is no leftovers, that's what I eat for. Well, it's not really breakfast. I try to keep my food window to from 6 to 8 hours. I eat 2 meals in that 8 hour period, 6 or 8 hour period, and then I try not to eat again until the next day because the fasting is good for you. People don't understand that if they're constantly eating, their body is constantly processing food and it doesn't have time to do anything else. It's like if you're constantly playing a video game and your house gets messier and messier and messier and you never stop to clean it up, it's going to get bad at some point. And that's the same thing about our insides. If you don't stop eating long enough for the body to naturally clean itself up and do that maintenance work, taking out the trash, then it's it's gonna be not good for your health eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen, I like one of the things you highlighted about the, you don't have to eat like a prime rib or, to be a carnivore. I think you
Mm-mm.
mentioned Ken Berry saying this. Yeah, and also, you can eat bologna or just
Yeah,
hot
and
dogs. That's all you can afford. I really like that
chicken
because,
isn't
it's
that
very relatable.
expensive. You can get some pretty big packs of chicken legs and chicken thighs. And if you don't like them baked, I don't think there's anything wrong with them baked in the oven because the skin gets crispy. But maybe that's not quite good enough for some people. So throw it in a pot full of lard or beef tallow and fry it. There's nothing wrong with frying it as long as it's not in seed oil. And you can, if you want
Yeah,
it coated and breaded, coat it in some pork rinds. I mean, there's a lot of ways around their processed food that's just as good, if not better. So you just have to do a little bit of homework and a little bit of legwork and bread the stuff yourself. So, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Karen, what is the hardest thing about being carnivore for you? Is there anything hard or maybe difficult? Examples of this would be for me like social gatherings, right? With family who are non-carnivore. The travel, you might have to like scout locations where I go to. So the fear of like starving, and the cravings that took me like a year and a half. I mean, close to a year and a half, like to get it out of my system. Maybe some skepticism from family and friends again. Like, what about for you? Is there anything difficult or hard?
Uh, Not too much because I was never real big on sweets and I was never a big bread person. So I can leave sweets and bread alone and it doesn't phase me at all. I don't care. Like I said, the potatoes, chips, things like that. Um, so yeah, I don't really feel like I'm being deprived if I go to a gathering or out. Now, traveling, I love McDonald's. I've always loved McDonald's, and I know that if I go into a McDonald's, I can order quarter-pound patties and eat them. And they give me that fast food taste. It tastes like McDonald's, but their patties are good. They don't have any kind of filler or nothing in them. They don't put anything on them. They don't put any seed oil on them. And so I know I can go there. Culver's isn't too bad on their patties. There's, or if you're that desperate, just get a hamburger or cheeseburger and just take the bun off, or ask them for a piece of lettuce that you can put it in or something. And I'm finding that more and more I don't get looked at funny for asking for just quarter-pound patties like I did 3 years ago. I guess it's becoming more common because the McDonald's workers don't look at you like you just ordered something from the moon, you know. So I guess it must be becoming more commonplace for people to be dumping the bread.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Yeah, I think McDonald's is one of those places where you can pretty much get the patties. Um, Karen, if you had to describe the impact of carnivore in your life, what one word would you describe it, and tell me why?
I would say longevity because if I hadn't have changed to carnivore 3 years ago, I can guarantee I wouldn't be sitting here as healthy as I am. Not that I'm the picture of health yet, but I'm way better than I was 3 years ago. I had diabetes. I was on two kinds of diabetes medication. I was on two different kinds of high blood pressure medication and a statin. And they were starting to give me the shots that they were like the grandpa of the GLP-1. I can't remember what the exact name of it, but it was a pen that you shot weekly into your arm or thigh or wherever. And that was right before the GLP-1s came out, but it was a form of it because the doctor did tell me, "Oh, this might help you lose some weight." But those are all just band-aids. It's a band-aid to fix your bad eating habits. If you change your eating habits, you don't need all that stuff. And that was another thing that happened quickly for me was I got off my medications. My blood sugar, once I was no longer insulin resistant, which took probably about 3 to 4 months to get there completely. But then after that happened, then my blood sugar would stay around between 90 and 100 and then go up a little bit if I eat something, but that's normal. But it didn't like skyrocket. It would go up, a small amount and then come back down because I wasn't eating carbs. And meat doesn't make it spike unless it's got something in it that it shouldn't have. So,
Yeah. Well, Karen, I'm really glad to hear your op meds. So two for type 2 and then two for the high blood pressure and the
uh-huh.
statins.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, Karen, so knowing what you know now about the carnivore, the nutrition, and the lifestyle itself, like if you can give an advice to someone who may have a similar issue like type 2 diabetes, but they see that you're doing so well with this lifestyle, but they're super skeptical. They embrace the current conventional medical approach and the nutrition, and thinking, oh, this is gonna just trigger my whole disease. So what would you tell them?
Well, it's kind of fine now to follow the food pyramid since Bobby Kennedy turned it upside down the way it's supposed to be and not the way it has been for the last 40 years. So following his advice is good, but the main thing I would say is just stop eating processed food. If you look at the ingredients and it's like a paragraph long, you don't even have to read what it says. Just put it down because you don't need all that stuff. And if you really start reading it, everything, even your boxed dry goods in your pantry, is full of maltodextrin, which is super sugar. It's worse for you than regular sugar. And that's the other thing that I've learned is if you really want to eat something sweet, eat something sweet. But just make sure it's something with a little bit of real sugar in it and not some processed chemical that they've come up with to make us all addicts.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Karen, my last question to you is your future outlook on this community, right? How do you see the carnivore like evolving maybe in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see carnivore going in the good light, the bad light? Bad light meaning we might see similar censorship, like during the COVID times, maybe a pushback, more pushback from the media, the medical industry. On the positive note, we'll see more people wanting to hear about it, listening to smaller podcasts like this, because there's hearing a lot of people healing, curing their diseases. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think there's going to be a big boom coming because the Healing Humanity movie is getting ready to come out. I was on one of the research groups for older people starting carnivore, and so my name is going to be in the credits. Yay me! But the limited showings of that has been very positive. Carrie's done a good job of exposing it to people that didn't know anything about carnivore, had no idea how bad our food really was and what they were doing to us. And so I think once that movie is released into a lot of the big theaters, which it's just starting to happen now, a year from now, I think so many million people are going to see that movie that they're going to change things because it's so easy. There's not many rules to carnivore, and the benefits just keep coming. It's
Yeah,
kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. And now we have a government behind that theory too. So
yeah,
I think big med is going to have to follow along. The thing people don't
yeah,
understand
yeah,
too
yeah,
about what has happened to our food, and I see a lot of YouTube videos about it, people show, some random beach from 1973, and there wasn't any fat people, and now you go to the beach and everybody's fat, and it's because of what happened to our food. Well, what happened to our food? When they found out cigarettes cause cancer, the tobacco companies were well aware of what was coming down the pike. They knew that tobacco was going to either be banned or restricted, and they had to do something else. They're big corporations. They got to make money somehow. So they took their um, very talented R&D departments, bought up the snack food companies. General Foods was one, I think, that they bought up, and there was a couple others, but they were all snack food companies. And so then they started developing these chemicals. They altered the molecules in the food and developed chemicals that are addictive. And that's why you can't stop eating that garbage, because it's the same as shooting heroin in your vein. It's the same thing. Same thing as smoking crack. Once you start, you can't stop because there's addictive properties in the food put there intentionally by the food companies. And up until this administration, our government allowed it. And that's the most disgusting thing about it to me, is that the government allowed it and promoted it. And so they tell you that a bowl of cereal, that 80% of the cereal in the store tests positive for glyphosate, which is Roundup, and they've GMO'd all of our grains. Who knows what that stuff is going to do to somebody after eating it for 40 years? We don't know because it hasn't been around that long. But I'm not going to be here to see it. I hope you younger people get the benefits of what we're doing now and that it doesn't continue. Because I'm going to be 69 in a couple of weeks. So I know my time here on Earth is limited to a point. We never know. I mean, I could be gone tomorrow and I could live 30 more years. You never know. But either way, I'm in the twilight of my life. The sun's going down. So I had to do something. And like I said, without my daughter here, I've got 3 grandkids that are 19, 15, and 9. And they need somebody to guide them. So, and I live with 2 of them. So that's a lot of motivation for me. and chasing. There's two others here. I call them my grandkids. They're not blood, but they're from one of the parents of one of my grandchildren. So they're grandkids, and they're 1 and 4. So I got a whole slew of kids to run around and chase. So, and I can't keep up with them if I'm just a fat old lady laying on the bed. So I try to ride my bike. Still ride my bike, and with my bad knee, walking is a little difficult for me. But my arthritis has gotten a little bit better with between getting the weight off and eating properly and not putting all those bad chemicals into my joints and the inflammation from the seed oils. So, yeah, it's coming around. It's a process.
Okay, I certainly like your motivation now. You talk about chasing your grandkids, and also I think you're gonna need everything from Carnivore to be able to perform
Yeah,
this. So
yeah,
I think you're pretty much on the right track. Yeah, and congratulations on being part of the film. It's something I can't wait to watch. I guess, like you said, maybe in a year or so. Because of the limited structure of what it has right now.
yeah. Carrie's
Karen,
trying to get
so
it into some of the major movies, um, the theaters, the chains. He's trying to get in, and sooner or later, somebody's going to say yes. And once one does, then the rest of them will follow along, and then everybody will see it, and they'll realize how badly we've all been eating for 40 years now. Actually, probably close to 50.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Karen, if people want to reach out or connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
I have my YouTube channel, Karen's Carnivore Journey. I haven't been uploading many videos because I got kind of to where I wanted to go, and I moved, and I don't really have a good place to do videos now. So, um, but my email address is there. Anybody can email me through YouTube. Um, that would probably be the best way if they're carnivore.
All right. That's awesome, Karen. I'm gonna make sure to post your YouTube channel and also your email in the description so people can reach you.
Okay, cool.
Karen, thank you so much again, yeah, for joining me. I really enjoyed hearing your story, your perspective, and learning about your journey. I appreciate you taking the time.
Sure, no
Thank you.
problem, Joseph, and good luck with your project.